Alright, today we're going to learn how to make a character sit down at a bench when you press a button, and then stand up again when you've done pressing, when you press the button again. So we're going to grab ourselves a deluxe puppet and pop him in the scene. We'll put him right here. And then we'll just give him a cube to sit on for our bench. So go into sculpt mode. And we'll just take one of these cubes. We'll put it nice and straight, so we'll put it on a grid. And we'll just pop it right there. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to make animation for the puppet so that when he sits down on the box that he plays this animation. So to do that, we're going to open up the puppet logic. And I'm going to do this kind of sloppy. I'm just going to do this all in this controller logic area. I'm just going to make myself a little microchip so I have a new space to work. Right here. Oh, I keep pressing the wrong thing. There we go. Alright, and we want to give him the sit down animation. So we're going to go to animate. We're going to add a frame. I'm going to pop it in here. A little too soon. Shouldn't have done that quite yet. Here, let me get rid of that. We'll stop recording. Because first, before we do this, we want to move him over to the bench. So let's put on the grid. Yeah, we got the grid on. Let's snap him to the grid, and then let's move him to the bench. We'll give him nice and close. Alright, so now we're in a good place to animate him. So I'm going to add the keyframe, and now we're going to take his pelvis and move it back. Oh, no. We're going to zoom in so we can grab his pelvis closer. We're going to turn the grid off. There we go. Alright, that looks better. Then we're going to get his hands out of the block. So let's move those hands up. Oop, missed it. There we go. Okay. And we'll just have his hands on his knees. Like that. And we're going to rotate him around so he's not cutting through. And rotate a little more. Let's grab the other hand. There we go. Okay, pull it out from the block. And now we can put that on his other leg. And rotate. Bring it up. Get closer. Down a little bit. Down a little bit. And that's pretty good. Alright, so let's go into this frame. And we're going to extend the slow power up and power down so he doesn't do it instantly. He doesn't get out of it instantly. Oh, I think I'm still in record mode. That's not what I want. Let's turn this off first. Okay. So let's give him a second to get into it. Let's give him a second to get out of it. And then we'll test this by popping a switch in our scene. And we'll plug that switch into the power port of the keyframe. And we'll put it into play mode by pressing on our right control stick. And we'll say, okay, he sits down kind of fast. Don't know why that is. Looks like this is going between 0 and 1. Maybe I accidentally recorded that as part of the animation. Okay. I think I de-animated it there. Let's see if that fixed it. Yeah. Okay. So I had accidentally told this number to animate, and he's able to get rid of it by pressing the triangle button. So now we can have him stand up and sit down, and that looks good. All right, so let's reset this. We're going to have this powered off by default. Let's move him over back to the center. We'll put our grid on. Yep. Move him right there. Rotate him around. Because that's where he'll start. Alright, so we've got a sit animation. Next thing let's do, let's plug it into the controller so the controller can actually make him sit. So we're going to do this with the square button. So I'll open this up. And we'll start off real simple at first and just plug square directly into the keyframe and see what that does. Okay, so I'll take control of the puppet. So when I press square, he sits, but he can also walk around, and I have to hold square the whole time, and when I let go of it, he stands up. So he sits and he stands up. That's not what we want. So when he sits, he can't move around, and we want it so that when you press it, he actually stays down. You have to press it again to bring him up. So, to do that, we'll reset the scene. To do that, what we'll do is we'll use a selector. So selectors are in yellow. This guy right here. Oh, let's bring that back up. I'm going to get rid of that one. We're going to get rid of the switch because we know it works already. And we're going to put a little port here. Ports just help keep things organized. So that rather than going directly into the keyframe, we're going to go, come on. We're going to go into the port. We're going to go into the node. All right, so what we'll have this node do is when we press the square button, it's going to go through this node, and it's going to go into the selector, which will move to the next output. And that output will be B. So we're not going to hook anything to A, that's kind of the default. So A is going to be our normal movement of the character, and then B is going to be our sit state. So the first thing we'll do is we'll plug B into the keyframe. All right, so let's try that out. Okay, so now when I press square, he sits down. He can still move around, but I don't have to hold square. If I press square again, oh, and he stands back up. All right, so that looks pretty good. But we don't want him to move around, so what we can do is have it so when he's in B state, he doesn't get this puppet interface, right? That we can actually just turn this thing off. So to turn that off, we need to send a negative signal to its power source. We can do that with a NOT gate, which is this guy right here. So when B is active, it'll go into the NOT gate, and then the NOT gate we're going to put into the power source of the puppet interface. So right now B is not active, which means this NOT gate is active, so you can see the line coming out of it, which is going to the puppet interface, which is turning it on. But if we press the square button, then this will become active, this will become inactive, and puppet's interface will go off, which will make it so he can't move around. So I'm walking around, I press square, and now I can move the control stick all I want, and he can't move. But if I press square again, he'll stand back up, and we get it back. Okay, so we got our basic sit animation. Now we just need it to work with this cube so that he'll actually sit on the cube, because right now I can just sit anywhere. Alright, so to do that, we're going to need to tell him to first, we don't want him to just be able to trigger this anywhere. He needs to be kind of near this bench in order to sit down on it. So we need a zone trigger to let him know where he's near the bench, so he can actually tell. All right, so we'll grab this trigger zone, pop it in, and then when we tap it, we see we get a little sphere. So we're going to put this right over him. So this is just detecting area around him. And then we need to give it something to detect. And what we're actually going to do is make ourselves some useful but invisible sculpts. So I'm going to use some disks for this. I'm going to make them colors just to make it a little bit easier to tell what they are. I'm going to make mine green. But none of this really matters. It's just to help keep in your mind what you need to do. So I'm going to rotate this. I'm going to make it a little smaller. And so this will be the spot that he'll detect to see whether there's a bench here or not. And to make it so he can detect it, I need to give it a tag. I'm going to turn off the grid. I'm going to turn off the grid like that. And I'm going to put a tag on it like that. And we're going to call this, we're going to name this tag. It's important so that the system knows, so you can refer to this name later. So we're just going to name it bench. Okay. And so now we're going to go back here, and we're going to tell this trigger zone to detect a certain tag, and then we're going to type in bench right here. And then to let the player know that they can do something here, let's give them a little cue on the screen. And let's do that with a text displayer. So we'll go into movers and output and text displayer, and pop it down right there. And we'll just tell the player what button they can press. We can do this with some special notation. If we put in this less than sign, and then, oops, and then type in the word square, like that, and then do the greater than sign. It's going to turn into the button. And then let's just set some properties so it looks nice. Let's get rid of the background and the shadow, and let's move this over here. Let's make it bigger and kind of center it, and that's fine. So right now, when I play the game, it's always on, it's always powered, but we only want it to be powered if he's actually getting triggered by being near this bench. So let's do that. So we say, hey, if it's detected, then turn this guy on. If it's not detected, then turn it back off. Okay, so let's try it out. Okay, so you can see I get there. Cool. Now you can still sit anywhere, but now we've got a thing to let the player know when to sit, or what to press to sit. Alright, so now in order to sit, we need two things to be true. One is he needs to be near this guy, and two, he needs to press the X button. So in order to have our logic only work if both those things are true, we need an AND gate, because they both need to be true. So we'll just pop the AND gate here, and we're going to say, hey, you've got to detect this trigger zone, and we'll get rid of this wire. You need to have the square, press the square button, like that. So now, and then we'll put both those things into that node. So now both these things have to be true in order for that node to trigger and for the stuff to happen. So let's see if we got it right. So we can see our button press is still happening. Now I can press square here, nothing happens. Press square here, he sits, can't move. Press square again, he can move. Okay, so it looks like that's working right. Alright, so now we need him to actually line up with this bench so that he's not just sitting randomly. We've made it so he can only sit in a small area, but he needs to actually, you know, kind of end up right about here. So we need to fix his rotation and his position, and ideally before he starts playing his sit animation. Yeah. So to do that, we're going to use some more new gadgets. I'm going to move this up a little bit so we get some more room. Alright, so we can get him to where he needs to go. We can set his position by using a follower gadget. Alright, so paste that in there. Oops. Let's bring that back up. Alright, so let's not plug this in anything yet, just to get it working. So I like cranking the strength all the way up and overall dampening all the way up. We need to give it a tag to follow. So let's give that tag bench. That's what we used earlier. Okay. And then we don't want to follow in X, Y, and Z. We don't need to follow in Y because we don't want him actually squatting down at all. So we're going to crank this all the way down. And then let's try it out and see if it works. Okay, sort of. He has jumped, and I'm not sure why. So if we can figure that out. Let's reset it. Let's try it again. Yeah, he's in the air. Alright. Why did you do that? Is Y not what I think it is? I think Y should be correct. It's telling him, oh look, he's got this gadget right here. I wonder if that's supposed to be where his feet are. Here, let's try setting Y all the way down, Z all the way up. Let's try turning on the guide. Let's see if we can get this gadget. Let's align it to his grid. So now it's, let's see if he'll get that to go where this is. Okay, nope, still in the air. Oh, okay. Not really getting closer yet. Why would we're happy to follow? I could try lower strength, I guess. Okay. Well, the lower strength seemed to have done it. I don't know why, really. Maybe just the physics was a little too strong. I guess we'll figure out someday. But that seemed to work. Okay, and he's going up to it. That's great. Now we don't want him to constantly go up to it. We only want him to go up to it once we've entered the sit mode. So we'll power it on only when we're in the sit mode, which is our B state. And let's try it now. Okay, so he's not going up to it by himself anymore, which is great. We get here, we press square, he goes, and he kind of sits and goes to it at the same time. Now, ideally, we'd have it so that he would go up to it, and then he would play his animation afterwards. I couldn't figure out actually a way from these ports to do that. There might be, but I just couldn't figure it out. So we'll do kind of a cheaper option, and we'll just say, hey, let's add a little timer in to give him time to go to get himself oriented before he actually plays his sit animation. So rather than the keyframe happening right away, we're going to have this go into a timer. And then when the timer's done, let's set the timer to be pretty short, maybe half a second. Okay, when the timer's done, we'll route that into the power of the frame. Now we need a way for this timer to reset. And so we can actually use this not gate. So we say, hey, if it's not B is active, then we're going to reset this timer. So the next time he's ready to sit down, this timer is ready to go for us. So let's see how we're doing. Here we are. He walks up to it and he sits. Great. And you can see they're not happening at the same time anymore. Okay, but he's still not sitting at the right angle. But that's okay. We're going to use kind of a gadget that's kind of like the same for follow. Follow changes your position, but we're going to use one for rotation. That works almost the same way, and that's going to be called the look at rotator. Alright, so this is going to tell him to look at a particular spot. So we're going to, just like the other one, we're going to say, hey, we're going to plug it in. We only want this active when we're in sit mode, but we need to give something to look at. Now we know he's going to be standing here, and we know he wants to sit here, so we're going to put something over here for him to look at. So I'm going to make another sculpt. And again, this is just a throwaway one. I mean, throwaway is in like, it doesn't matter what it looks like. But I'm going to make mine yellow just to help me keep it distinguished from the green one. You know, put it right there, make it small maybe. Stamp it in place. And then we need to give this one a different tag because we want him to look at this. And so we'll just call it, oh, we need to turn off our grid. We need to turn off our grid. go. And we'll just call this, let's call it a look spot. And we're being careful to get the name just right. Okay. And so we'll say, hey, we want you to look at a tag. We'll say, yeah, we definitely want you to stay upright. And we want you to find the look spot, and we want you to rotate to look at it. Also need to take this one, make sure it's facing the right way. So you see right now, it thinks this is his forward vector. That's not correct. So we're going to turn on the grid, and then we're going to rotate it like that. So now it knows that which direction he's facing forward, which way he should look. We're also going to crank the strength up a lot, so he does it kind of fast. And then we don't need him rotating in all the different directions. We really only need him rotating in Y, which is this one sticking up and down right now. So we're just going to turn off Z and X like that. Okay. And so let's see if we got it right the first time. There we go. Okay, no, we did not. But look at that, he's slowly rotating the right way. So it might be that we just didn't give him enough power. So let's go back to this. Let's actually keep this playing. And let's crank up this, let's try doubling this to 360. Starting to get there a little bit. Okay. He's jerking around a lot, I'm not really sure why. I don't think it would be, oh. Okay, it looks like there's still things I don't understand about these, doing these component-based ones. Let's try it from the beginning and see if we got it working. Okay. Okay, that's pretty good. And you can see he's not quite beside the bench yet, but let's try from a different angle. Okay, cool. So, a couple things. One is we can have it, if we want multiple benches, we want this to work with all of them, and so we can change the distance that he will look at things and walk to things. So let's change this to 2. Now you can see he's only going to, we can have benches that are, we can have more than one because he'll only look at the look spot that's within this green radius, this green sphere. And we can do the same thing for follower. Let's just put this at 2 as well. And so now we should be able to have multiple benches. Let's go into this and we'll say, hey, actually, we don't want this to be collidable or visible. And we don't want this one to be collidable or visible either. So we're just turning off those things. We do have to do one special thing with the trigger zone. So that we have to say, hey, let's see, where is it? Oh, maybe it doesn't matter when it's a tag. Okay, maybe we don't have to do that. Let's find out. And we'll reset this. Okay. Okay, looks about like it did. Looks like everything's working. Now we just need to line up the spot so that he sits nicely on the bench. To work with things that are invisible, we're going to say preview invisibility, and then just to make these easy to work with, we're going to group these 2 special spots together, like that. Let's turn, yeah, we've got our grid on, so let's maybe back this up 1 spot. Let's try it again. And there we go. Okay, he sits down. We press square and he stands back up. We come from a different angle. Not a problem. So there's probably some better tricks, but this is how I figured out how to do it. Let's take these spots with our bench and group them together. And then just for fun, let's see if we would duplicate this, will he be able to understand which bench to sit at? Okay. Okay, so we've got square. We should have square again over here. We do. We can sit at this bench. And we can sit at this bench. No problem. Alright, and so that's how you have a character sit at a bench when you press a button, and stand up again when you press that button again. Oh, one last thing. I'll publish this project so that you can remix it. So let's do that now. Yep. We will. Let's see. We'll exit it. We'll save. It's a scene. Do a showcase. And we'll just call it how to sit on a bench. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and publish that up. Release it as public. And then I'll fill this stuff in later. Alright, so if you look for Joe program and how to sit on a bench, you should be able to find this guy and remix it and get your own characters to sit on benches. Alright, that's all.